Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. So we're going to do a bit of a walk round of the Subaru BRZ. So it's been a while since I featured it on the channel, so I thought I'd do a walk round where we are with it, what's been done since the last video, and what are the plans for the future. So let's go for a drive, we'll pull up and I'll walk you around it. Hey everyone, so we're at the location where I'm going to do the walk around now. So hopefully you notice an improvement in the audio since the last video. So the last video I was using just the standard built-in mic. Now I've got my external one on with a cat, so hopefully the audio should be better. Okay, so we're going to walk around the back end first while we're here. So let's take a look. So you'll notice here we've got the SARD style wing. I say it's SARD because I don't know too much about it. So I originally brought it used. It was all sort of cracked, so I put some pictures on the screen, but here there was a lot of damage to it. So I think a pigeon had hit it on the previous owner's car, so he didn't know how to get it fixed, so he decided to sell it cheap. So I managed to pick that up, sent it to a local body shop that I know that does work with carbon. They've done a great job in fixing that, so if anyone needs anyone in the Midlands that can sort of repair the lacquer on carbon, give me a shout and I'll let you know their details. So also at the back end, we've got the wheel and tail lights. So you can see here they're very much like the facelift set of lights, because this is actually a 2012-2013 BRZ. So I wanted to go for these because I think it gives a much more modern look to the back of the car. Not a big fan of some of the other Valentis and Toms and things like that, but these were perfect for me and really modernised the back end, and was actually one of the first mods I did when I picked up the car. Okay, down here you'll notice we've got the Nvidia exhaust, so it's the M1 exhaust. Really loud. I've got no cats in the car at the moment, and what I'll do, let me insert a clip now of the video, a couple of drive-bys and static shots, so you can hear actually how loud this is. So the setup, I think, is an N1 Nvidia cat back, then there's a TD mid pipe, then I think it's a Miltech over pipe, and then I actually have the Baller unequal length manifold up the front. So it's a really loud setup. This is probably one of the loudest setups you'll find on a BRZ, unless you completely delete all the resonators. These only have two little ones at the back, so I'll put those videos in now. Okay, and then while we're down here, so you can see we've got this little sort of lip or diffuser lip. So I think it just adds a bit more interest down at this back end. I think that's just a generic Fensport non-OEM print one. Then you can see we've got the import sized, it's actually a US American import sized plate. Just prefer the look of that, hence why I went for that size. And then the only other things we've got, and I'll talk about them in a bit more detail, are these rear spats. So around the car is actually the Subaru STI kit. So you couldn't get that in the UK, so I had to have that imported. So it was just as COVID hit last year, so I managed to get an order from Japan Parts in. It cost me a fortune to get it posted, but you just don't see many of them in the UK with the genuine STI kits. There's lots of replicas out there, but when I did this BRZ, I wanted to do it with some really good parts, and one of the things that really stood out for me is I didn't want to go down the wide body route. Didn't appeal to me, so I wanted to put some sort of body kit or lip kit on there was something a little different, so I went for that STI, genuine STI kit from Subaru Japan. Okay, so moving to the side of the car now, one of the biggest differences you can see are actually the wheels. So these are rotor grids, they're 18-inch wheels. I didn't want to go too small because I wanted the car quite low but have the ability to still get over speed bumps, especially with that sort of rare STI kit. So I went for the 18-inch just to raise the car up a little bit, even though I was able to lose the wheel gap. So the car's actually lowered on teen suspension. And not only does that obviously help with the looks of the car, but it also improves the handling, although it's great out the factory anyway. I think just having that sort of stiffer setup suits me down to the ground. Now you can see this got the stock brakes at the moment that were painted red by the previous owner. So I do want to fit some sort of brake upgrade at some point on this one. Maybe looking at the Impreza STI calipers, or maybe some sort of other big brake kit that's aftermarket. That I can slot on and just help with braking performance. Although these do a great job, and I think until I up the power, there's no necessary need to change those brakes. These work perfectly. Okay, so when you look down the side of the car, the other big thing you'll notice is the STI side skirts. So again, all genuine, there's no replica parts here, so these were flown in from Japan. Took a few months to get them in, but Japan Parts did a great job of getting those delivered safely. I think they really complement, and I like the sort of the black line. It reminds me a bit of the sort of the arches on the Minis that I've got as well. Okay, so I went for body coloured side vents as well. So these are obviously off factory off the Subaru BRZ, but I just colour coded those when I had the car painted. Wasn't a big fan of some of the big TRD sort of wing type ones, so stuck with those. May change them in the future for something if I see another design, but really pleased with them at the moment. Okay, so another feature that you can't really see that is aftermarket that I've added is actually the folding wing mirrors. So I was actually sent a set of those and did a review on them. So I'll put a little clip now, but they auto fold. So when you lock the car or unlock the car, they fold in and out automatically, so you don't have to think to fold those in. I don't think that was a factory option at all, so it's nice that the aftermarket has actually come up with those. Really pleased, and they work really well. I think the only setback with them is if you're someone like me that takes your cars to shows, as soon as you walk away from your car and lock it, the wing mirrors fold in, and I know that's not a massive thing, but you always want your car to look as presentable as possible, and I think it looks better with the wing mirrors out. So that's the only sort of downside with fitting that module. Okay, so it's down the front end that there's been a lot of changes. So obviously, as I mentioned, it was a write-off car, so this front end was completely missing, so I had no front bumper, no headlights, etc. Had to replace the wings and the bonnet and everything. So I decided, as this was a pre-facelift car, I wanted to modernise the front end, so I went with a few different parts that allowed me to get that fresher look. So the first of all and the biggest change is the front bumper. So that's a facelift Subaru parts, so had to get that brand new because they just were non on the used market. But what I also did, if you see the bumper bar in the middle, the black moustache that not everyone's a fan of, so I actually ordered that straight from the USA, because the big difference in the UK and the US cars is that we have sort of holes and a little plate, little part to add the front number plate. In the US they don't, so I was able to buy this version that didn't have the little cutout for the front number plate, and I think that freshens up the front end, and when I'm taking photos or at shows, I think that gives me a nice fresh look that's a bit different to everyone else. Okay, what else have I done? So you can see the fog lights are yellow, so I've done those, just wrapped those in a bit of yellow film, just to give a bit of a different look. Headlights, obviously they were missing from the car, they were completely smashed off in the accident, so I've actually gone with a set of Veland headlights, and they've got a HID upgrade kit as well in those. So those are brilliant, fit really well. I know other people have had issues with those. I've had absolutely zero, so really good upgrade I think, and a bit more modern than the sort of the pre-facelift lights. Okay, and then coming right down to the bottom, we've got the STI lip. So that was part of that kit that I brought from Japan. And I think that again adds just a bit of an aggression to that front end. So if you see just there, looks really smart I think, and just add something a little bit different to a lot of the cars that you see out there on Instagram and at shows and things like that. Okay, one thing you will notice, it's a UK car, but there's no number plates on the front. I do drive round, I've been caught once before a long time ago without a number plate, so I don't do it anymore. So what I do have is one of these, so it's a removable front plate, so it's just a bit of a generic one off, I think it's Amazon or eBay, and what that allows you to do is remove the towing eye, cover and actually slot your number plate in really quickly. So if it comes to taking photos or you're at a show and you want a number plate free front end, you can literally within 30 seconds remove that and put it back on, so that you've got a nice clear front end. Okay, so one of the things you are going to notice when I lift this bonnet of the car is actually I've done away with the hood prop. So these are the ones from Fensport, so I've gone for their sort of generic ones that they do, and they fit perfectly, don't cause any issues, and allow you to have the bonnet up without having that prop in the way. So it's not the prettiest of engine bays at the moment, so I do have some plans to tidy this up a little bit and add a few different things. So let's go through what we've got so far. So down here we've got a Grimspeed intake, goes straight into the engine, so a little bit of performance, maybe some noise gains from that, so not loads of difference, but I quite like that one. It came up at a reasonable price. You can see down here we've got the HID kit for the headlights, so just tucking all that wiring away and trying to keep it as neat as possible. You'll notice across the middle we've got the STI flexible strut brace. So this was a part that actually came as part of the kit with the STI lips. So I wasn't specifically after this bit, but it came with it, so fitted that. Not sure how much it does. Subaru seem to think it adds a lot of stiffness. We'll see. You will probably notice there's a bit of tape here, electrical tape. That's because that metal bracket, they're really epoxy from the factory and they always bend, and the alarm goes off constantly because it's the sensor to determine whether the bonnet is closed or not. So I've just wrapped some tape around that for now until I get a better bracket made up, I think, because they always go rusty and bend from factory, so I think an aftermarket better solution is needed. Now I do have on the shelf at home a Grimspeed cover that goes across here, so the paint that finish had gone a little bit odd, so I'm having that powder coated to match the Grimspeed box. STI oil cap, I think that's just a sort of aftermarket one. I was sent that for free by one of my followers, so that was really a nice little present to receive in the post, so thank you for that. Other than that, it's pretty standard. You can see the firewall has gone black compared to the rest of the engine bay, so the guys did a great job of we removed as much of this as we can, and they painted as much of that you can see in green to match. The only bit we couldn't do because I wasn't removing the engine is the firewall, so that's actually been painted with like a black rubberized paint, just so if it got on anything while we were painting it, it would sort of rub off really easily. So I think that just tidies it up a little bit, the fact that we weren't in a position to remove the engine right now. I think that gives a nice finish. So not the most interesting of engine bays at the moment, but let's jump onto the interior. Okay, so into the interior now. So one of the key phrases I've used a number of times now on the exterior is I wanted to modernise. So I think a lot of what I see in the GT86 and BRZ are quite dated features now. I suppose the car's been around since 2012, so it's sort of 9 years old roughly. So there were a lot of things that I just wanted to tweak and improve. First thing being this steering wheel. So this is actually a stock steering wheel that I've sent off to Griggle Designs, and they're based in Latvia, and they've retrimmed it and reshaped it, so they've given it the flat bottom. We've got the Alcantara and Italian leather with red stitching and the red centre line. For me, it's something you touch, you feel all the time when you're driving, so I want the best feeling steering wheel. Aftermarket steering wheels, I didn't want to go down that route. I quite liked having the airbag and everything else, and I don't think it's an ugly steering wheel now, so really impressed with that, and I think that really helped to modernise it because I was not a fan of the stock perforated leather one. You'll see above that the binnacle cover, so this is a TS part from Subaru, so again another Japan part, so that came in with the STI skirts. If I open the door, you can see we've got the Alcantara with red stitching, again they're from the Subaru TS. I think they get that in the US and Japan, we don't get it in the UK. And there's around the car, there's just a couple of sort of little bit of gel carbon fibre bits just to tidy it up. wasn't a fan of the sort of the cheap plastics that were underneath that. Okay, coming into the centre, so we'll talk about the head unit in a little while, but one of the massive changes that I did was actually fitting the facelift screen. So there's plenty, I've put a couple of videos up on YouTube on how to do it, but this gives you basically the little digital screen that you do not get on the pre-facelift version, and it gives you lots of readouts in terms of temperatures and other things like that. And I think again, that just little modern touch of having that additional screen, I think just helps to improve the interior. So we've got the green dash to match the exterior of the car, and as we come down here, we've got a little carbon fibre section here, and you can see the controls for the screen. Because I didn't go for the facelift steering wheel, I've got this little Gerald's Projects controller, and that controls the screen up behind the steering wheel. Okay, so other little touches that you may not notice at first are the door handles, these vertical bits around the stereo, the rings around the gear stick are all black, so I've painted those myself and they're holding up pretty well so far. Again, they come in factory, they come sort of like a silver colour. So the one thing I definitely need to improve in here is I want to change the gear knob, because I'm not a fan of the stock gear knob. So any suggestions, put them down below in terms of getting a nicer version of that, whether I can get like a carbon fibre version or not, something that looks a bit nice and feels a bit nicer. Then also the gaiters, so I want to get some Alcantara and red ones made up at some point, just to match the steering wheel, because Toyota and Subaru put these sort of cheap plasticky, I don't know whether it's leatherette maybe, gaiters that aren't that nice. And same for this grip, I'm not a big fan of the feel of that. Also in these trays I've got the little rubber mats, again they're an eBay job, they just add a little bit of splash of colour in some really boring areas of the car. And same again in the door pocket, you get a little red one in there. Other than that, it's pretty much stock in here. So I've still got the back seats in at the moment. The standard seats are heated. It's one of only a couple of options that you actually can choose on a BRZ or an 86 is to have the heated Alcantara and leather seat. So I'm really happy with them, so no plans to really change those at the moment. I think the big thing with this car is it's one of those that I don't technically have a daily driver because I work from home, but if I was going to have a daily, this would be it, because it's comfortable and fun at the same time. Okay, so one of the things I did want to improve was the audio. So I'll talk about the head unit in a second, but what I wanted to do was add some sort of bass in here, so some sort of sub. So if you have a look, it's a decent sized boot compared to the Mini, but it's not massive, so I didn't want to lose that. So what I've done is actually brought one of these custom made boxes with a JL audio sub in that. You can see a little JL audio amp tucked away there, so it takes up the spare wheel well, but that really doesn't bother me because I wouldn't carry a spare anyway. And that hides down below the floor. You can see actually the adjusters for the teen suspension there as well. I think that's just a nice little stealth install. Didn't want to lose any boot space, so really happy with that. So you can see here on the dials, you just get a nice little startup display. You've got the Subaru dial sweep, and then on the little screen there you can see a little Subaru logo. It's just the little touches like that with this new screen dash that I really like. Then obviously talked about improving the audio side of things. So I've got a Pioneer DAB, I think it's the 130 head unit. So I haven't got my phone currently plugged in because that's what I'm recording on, but it does have Apple CarPlay, DAB, sat-nav and everything else off the Apple CarPlay. So that is a much better upgrade than what looked like a Ford Transit stereo that was installed in here. So the surrounds, again, are aftermarket. Not a big fan of the fact that the stereo doesn't go side to side, but unless you get one of the rare ones from like Japan, it's never going to fill that gap fully, because they have a slightly different size design from what I understand to those in the UK and potentially the US as well. But I have plans in the future. I do want to upgrade, because the dash top speakers, I understand there's some space there for tweeters and things that we don't get in the UK. I've already got some brackets made up for the rear speakers, because they're currently like little tweeters at the moment. So I've got some, I think they're 6.5 inch brackets made up, so I can get 6.5 inch speakers in there, and also there's door speakers as well. So I will be looking to improve the audio again, but just changing the head unit and adding the sub makes such a difference, because it just gives that bass that the standard stereo lacks. And I think a big thing for me is the interior changes that I've made. So I love the exterior, but the interior feels so much more modern with the little touches that I've made. And there's still things that I might change in the future, but I'm really happy with this car as it sits right now. So that's why there's just been no mods really done for a while now, because I'm just happy and enjoying it as it is. So yes, at some point I've got future plans. So what is it? I want to upgrade the audio. That's one bit I've talked about in the video earlier. So I definitely want to get some speaker upgrades in here and get the audio better. Potentially, so the car does sit quite low, but I like the look of it. One thing I want to do is space the rear wheels out. So they're just sitting a little bit too much for my liking. So I do have plans in the future to change the wheels, but for now I think I'm just going to buy some 15mm, 20mm spacers, just space those rear wheels out so they fill the arches a little bit more. The car is sitting quite low and can rub just a little bit sometimes under very harsh conditions. So I may or may not go for air in the future. Not quite sure yet. I'm enjoying the teens. They work really well. And there is little to no rubbing. It's just maybe on full lock there's a tiny little bit if you're going a little bit fast or whatever. But no major rubbing or anything like that with the setup on the car as it sits. Then you come to the elephant in the room that everyone talks about with these cars. It's the engine. So power wise, it's about 200 from start, 200 brake horsepower, something like that. Now for me, this car is fun as it is and I'm enjoying it. Do I sometimes, when I'm sort of putting my foot down on the motorway or dual carriageway, feel that I need some more power? Yeah, probably. But for out and about sort of city driving, out on the country roads where I live, don't really notice the sort of the lack of power, but I definitely do have plans. I'm never going to say never with that. I do want to either go down the supercharger or turbo route. I just don't have any immediate need for it, so it's something that I will have on the list to do in the future. And if a kit comes up cheap in the next 12 months or so, do you know what, I might just pick it up and do a bit of an engine build series maybe on the engine, because I think that's probably the one thing in the car other than the audio that I'm looking to change. Exterior wise, really happy with it. Back end, there's literally nothing I would change. Really happy with the way the back end came out. Sides, other than maybe the side vents, doing a little tweak on those, maybe getting some vented A panels or wings, but maybe that's it from the side point of view. Wheels I do want to change in the future. They've got rotors on at the moment. I do want to go for something else different in the future. But City Powder Coaters did an amazing job on those. So they did the satin bronze finish on those, and couldn't be happier currently with them. Front end wise, again, literally nothing that I would change. Really happy with the headlights, the bumper setup. So there's nothing really that would change down there. So engine is probably the area in the audio that you're probably going to see some changes in the future. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying driving this car. It is the one that's dependable, always works, no issues at all, touch wood. So no, just enjoying the BRZ ownership journey. So that's it really for the tour of the car. So plenty of videos coming in the future on all of the cars that I've got. May have changed my mind about the R53. We'll see. That may be staying now and go in the corner for a little while, and then I'll pick that up as a project in the future once I'm done with the R56. So if you found today's video entertaining, please hit that like button and subscribe so you get alerts when there's future uploads onto the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. So one of the questions I get asked a lot, so I thought I just wanted to address with this, is the colour of the car. So it's Porsche RS Green. So the car was obviously in a big accident, so it needed to be fully painted, and with the white pearl, I didn't want a bit of a dodgy match, so I thought I'd just go for a full colour change. Now it is paint, there is no wrap on this car. That's literally the question I get the most is their car wrapped? No, it's fully painted. So I've never seen a wrap in real life that I was happy with. So I've seen lots of lovely wraps on Instagram and YouTube and everything else, but every show I've ever gone to that I've seen a wrapped car, I just couldn't live with it. And that's just a personal choice. That's nothing against anyone that's chosen to go down the wrap route. There's lots of nice looking cars out there with wraps. Just for me, I just a big fan of going down the paint route, not a wrap route. So I just wanted to address that point.
Baby.